We're doing very well with Iran. They've been decimated, and we're making a deal with them, and we'll see how that all goes. We had 19 barrels of oil, 19 million barrels of oil come off, and that's the biggest in the history of the Strait, the Hormuz Strait. Our stock market is through the roof, and oil prices are tumbling. I think it's going to break it, $70 a barrel. That's lower than we were when we started, and it's been amazing. And the big thing is, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
That's President Trump touting the 19 million barrels of oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz following the 60-day memorandum of understanding. Oil prices this morning are lower again. It has been dropping sharply. And investors are watching traffic through the Strait. The price of crude now below 72 at 71.89. That's down almost 2%. The Trump administration is waiving sanctions on Iran selling crude oil. And that is happening for 60 days. Gasoline prices remain under $4 a gallon right now, compared to more than $4.50 just a month ago. So we are looking at oil and gasoline come down sharply. Overnight, the president wrote on Truth Social this: the big oil companies are not dropping their price at the pump commensurate with the sharply lowered prices they're paying for oil. Those prices are dropping like a rock. In other words, customers are being gouged. I have instructed the DOJ to immediately start looking into this. Gasoline prices better start going down a lot faster than what I'm seeing, writes the president. Joining me now is the former Energy Secretary under President Trump in his first term, Dan Brouillette. Dan, great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, prices have been coming down, but not fast enough for President Trump. What is your reaction to his post?
Well, good morning, Maria. Great to be with you. Look, I think the president's right. Prices are going to come down. I think what he said is very, very important to understand. What we're measuring here is a number of barrels coming through the Hormuz Strait. The scorecard is the number of barrels. It is not a piece of paper. It's not the overall. It's not what the traders are doing with the pricing. It's the number of barrels moving through the Strait. That's what's bringing the prices down. But it's also important to remember there's a saying in this industry, up like a rocket, down like a feather. We're measuring two different things. One is the price of crude globally. The other is the retail price at the pump. Most of those prices are set by mom and pop gas stations across the country. There are some big box stores like Costco and others, but they control the price at the pump, and they are pricing it based on the prices that they paid for crude oil months ago. So it will take some time for these retail prices to come down, but I fully expect by Labor Day here in the United States, we're going to see retail prices much closer to $3 a gallon.
And you think, I mean, the president sort of jawboning the oil companies to take gasoline prices lower. You're saying it's not up to them.
It's not up to them. It's not the producers who set the retail price. It's actually the retail stations that we see in our neighborhoods all across the country.
Well, meanwhile, the administration announced more than $17 billion in loans to help accelerate the deployment of 10 large-scale nuclear reactors across the country. This is part of his President Trump's executive order signed last year to quadruple domestic nuclear power by 2050. Dan, the president has all hands on deck when it comes to powering up this economy and powering up this AI build-out. It's not just about oil and gas, it's about nuclear as well. Your thoughts?
That's exactly right. And he's focused on the right thing here. This is, focusing on the factory floor. We've allowed our nuclear industry to atrophy over the last 30 to 40 years, and we've moved away from the ability to manufacture things like compressors or steam generators or vessels that go into these reactors. And what the president is focused on is rebuilding that manufacturing capability. These are products, these are called long lead items. You buy them years before you pour the first concrete. So the president's focused on the right thing here. And what I really like about this program is that it's conditioned. It requires the utilities and the nuclear reactor manufacturer, Westinghouse in this case, they manufacture an AP1000. It requires them to put money on the table before they receive government money. So there's a commitment involved here on their part as well, which protects the taxpayer. And I think the president has that in mind as well.
Well, I mean, look, the demand is incredible because of what's going on with what many are calling an industrial revolution here with AI. U.S. power consumption expected to hit new highs this year. They surpassed annual records for a second straight year due to the surge in demand for AI data centers and crypto mining, Dan. Residential and commercial demand also fueling this surge, and yet you've got lots of pushback by Democrats who say they don't want these data centers being built out because it's affecting neighborhoods. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think the demand curve is real. When you look at it, I've seen numbers that suggest that we had roughly low 30s, 30 gigawatts of power demand coming from data centers last year. That number is expected to be north of 60 gigawatts by 2027. To put that in context or give you some sense of that scale, New York City on an average day uses 6 gigawatts. So we're talking about a 30 gigawatt increase, roughly 5 New York City-sized grids that need to be built in 2 years. That's what we're facing. That's the challenge. And as we look at AI and this race against China and other adversaries, it's really a race no longer just for chips or compute power. It's a race for electrons. And we're losing that race if we can't build this infrastructure more quickly than we have in years past. So I think the focus is correct. I think we need to address, things like regulatory policy around utilities to allow this infrastructure to be built even faster.
Well, we spoke with the CEO of Exelon yesterday, who's right in the middle of this in terms of electricity. And here's what he said about the demand story right now. Watch. What does demand look like from your standpoint in this?
It's been about 40 years since we've seen this type of load growth, and that was with the advent of air conditioning. So put that in perspective. I can't go to where they're getting their money from, but they are definitely building out data centers across our service territories. So what that means for a utility like Exelon, we have to continue to provide the backbone, the infrastructure, to connect them and to make it a reality. So we're spending $10 billion in infrastructure this year to meet that demand.
Should we be worried about the grid? I mean, there's so much demand.
Well, you shouldn't be worried about the grid. We have one of the most reliable grids in the world. But having said that, this grid is being called on to do things today that it hadn't had to do yesterday. So the investments are critical.
Do you worry, Dan, that a big portion of this investment into AI and the build-out is borrowed? This is debt that these companies have taken on.
Yeah, there's a lot of debt involved here, and I do think we need to be mindful of that. I do think in the long run, however, the returns will be handsome enough to pay off that debt. I'm not that concerned about it. But what Calvin's talking about is also important. The grid is strong. I mean, we have a 99.9999% success rate. I mean, our lights are always on, so we don't have to worry too much about the grid. My point is that we need to think more creatively about that grid and more creatively about the regulatory structure over which we operate these utilities across the country. Perhaps it's time for us to allow these data centers, the hyperscalers, if you will, to bring their own power, perhaps put it behind the meter, build their own generation.
Yeah, and let me bring Adam Johnson in, because that is exactly what President Trump tried to do. By telling the hyperscalers, you want to build out this infrastructure, well, the power is on you. You need to ensure that you can generate the power needed as well, Adam.
Oh, absolutely. And the Secretary raises an absolutely wonderful point, and that is that we have the power to enable these hyperscalers to produce their own power with natural gas. That's why we talk so much about GE Vernova, which builds those turbines that take nat gas as an input, spin the turbine, create electricity on site. Mr. Secretary, is this the way forward?
It could be. I think that's part of the future, part of our success story going forward, is to allow these turbines, allow this power to be built behind the meter. It's also going to be looking at technologies. We just talked about nuclear technology. I think there's some exciting technologies that are coming along that are much smaller. The AP1000 I mentioned earlier is critical to our future economic strength, but there are also small modular reactors or things that we can do that are much smaller scale that allow them to be dedicated to a data center, for instance.
All right. We will leave it there. Dan Brouillette, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Great to see you, Maria.
All right. We'll be right back. Stay with us.